工业化进程创造了前所未有的物质财富，也产生了难以弥补的生态创伤。
Resources such as land, water, and energy are limited. Fossil fuels, for example, will run out in hundreds of years, if not sooner, if we continue to burn at the current rate. So, how do we deal with the challenge? The Chinese asked a similar question 1,000 years ago, when the Tang Emperor in the 8th century needed to control excessive land use. The solution is to use resources with restraints and moderation.
取之有度，用之有节，是生态文明的真谛。我们要倡导简约适度、绿色低碳的生活方式，拒绝奢华和浪费，形成文明健康的生活风尚。
The idea of restraint and moderation has survived and taken on new meanings in modern time. Now let's meet Lawrence Brahm to talk about the original text, 取之有度，用之有节, and its modern manifestation. Hi, Lawrence.
Hey,
how's your day?
Good, really good.
Good to see you.
How are things today?
It's great. And today I invited you to talk about a quotation the Chinese leader used in his speeches about balance between nature and humans. It is taken from a book named 资治通鉴. Have you ever read the book? Heard of the book?
Copy of 资治通鉴.
What do you know about it?
Well, it was, I believe, written in the Song Dynasty, and it covered 16 different dynasties. And it's really a guidebook that you can see a continuum of cultural, traditional understanding of leadership and how to lead a nation through this book.
And the quotation itself means you don't have to push against nature too harsh. You have to use resources with restraints and moderations. What do you think of this philosophy and this value?
This is core to Chinese culture. 天人合一 in Chinese.
So in really, harmony with nature for
exactly.
humans.
We humans are just a conduit between the earth and the sky.
We think about economic policies. This is a result of that. We use too much resources. We ask too much from nature. And then we lost our land and ponds and lakes.
I think what's happening now at a national level is there is a total consideration of how we need to rebalance the economy. And here I think we could see with President Xi and the direction being taken under the ecological civilization policy that there is an enormous amount of investment now going into regridding the grid and shifting away from fossil fuels to green energy within a very short time. And that's a kind of huge decision, political will to rebalance the environment.
If you put the Chinese context against, say, Western context, what is the difference behind the thinking and the value systems between nature and man?
I think what we need to look at is the fundamental difference between Western thinking and Asian thinking on this value issue. Western thinking, since around the time of the Middle Ages, adopted a duality. And I think Asian thinking traditionally works around the concept of the yin and the yang. The yin and the yang are not opposites because ultimately it's about balance, it's about a middle way so that the energy track, the whole momentum of things is always going forward, but going forward in balance with nature.
When it comes to policies, it still needs the people to support the governments in terms of economic rebalancing, ecological culture. Do you think that is happening? Do the two sides meet in the middle?
Well, I think this is a very important aspect of the ecological civilization policy. And first of all, if we're going to be going into a new era of green energy, everything from law to engineering to city planning, to industrial use, to waste management. Everything needs to be rethought. And that has to go into the educational system. It's already being implemented down to the neighborhood level. And of course, with that is a higher awareness for people. And fortunately, with China's 5,000 years of cultural continuity of man being part of nature and understanding that, I think it's not difficult to get everybody on the same page.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. The philosophy of restraints and moderation has resonated throughout Chinese history.
仰望夜空，繁星闪烁。地球是全人类赖以生存的唯一家园。我们要像保护自己的眼睛一样保护生态环境，像对待生命一样对待生态环境。党和人民风雨同舟，生死与共，始终保持血肉联系，是党战胜一切困难和风险的根本保证。正所谓，得众则得国，失众则失国。
That message was first recorded in the Book of Rise, written more than 2,000 years ago. People-centric thinking has a long history in China, and it is one of the most important political ideals in Chinese culture. In 2020, the message revealed itself again in modern China. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought people's lives upside down. But Wuhan, a city once hit the hardest by the virus, has gotten back on its feet. What have the Chinese done right, and how it is connected to their view on people and their well-being? Let's meet with Steve McClure from Wuhan University, who has been through it all with people of Wuhan in the battle against COVID-19. Hi, Stephen.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing good, and you?
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
We're talking about this people-centric philosophy actually originated in this book, the Book of Rise, 2,000 years ago in China. And it has been a supreme philosophy for many rulers, many generations of rulers here in China. But you have the same concept. Abraham Lincoln said, the government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
That, of the people, for the by the people, and for the people. It was which people he was talking about. Yeah. I think that's it was decorative speech.
And you think it is not implemented in full policies?
No.
So the people-centric principles is universal.
I think that works. You know, I mean, that's the only way to have effective governance, really. I mean, the people are the country. I mean, if you don't take care of the people, then what do you have?
Let's go back to 2020. What was life like?
Well, we had the lockdown.
Were you nervous back then?
Not really. I mean, I didn't feel I was at a high risk.
Did you get any kind of help from anywhere?
Well, I mean, everyone that was in my complex was being supported by the community volunteers and the neighborhood committee. You know, people came knocking on my door, checking my temperature, checking to see if I was okay. When I ran short on food, it was either the people from my workplace or the community volunteers that made sure I could get the food that I needed to continue to be comfortable.
How do you look at the different responses from people in Wuhan and elsewhere?
I thought it was excellent here because there was efforts made from the top, from the national level, that were supporting people in Wuhan, and then there were the efforts from the bottom, from the communities, to respond to it and coordinate. So I just thought that I just don't think there's any way to deal with the pandemic without having this massive amount of civic engagement to make sure that everyone was okay. I don't see how anyone could do a lockdown like in Western countries without having that kind of infrastructure.
Somewhere else in the world, for example, in your country, probably because of some of the lacks in efforts from the government.
Well, that's what I think it's for, but I don't necessarily think that we did that effectively this time around. Something's missing if you're not talking about the people. Well, if you lose sight of that, then you're not doing anything. When you have everything break down into an adversarial conflict, then how are you ever going to reach the kinds of compromises and consensus to move things forward?
你们好，这个都是送到家里去。
对对对对对对。
This is a mid-sized community in Wuhan. What is it like 1 year after COVID?
恢复的很正常了，而且呢，社区呢在这1年里面也做了很多工作。
我们心情踏实下来，也跟我们社区的那个工作者是分不开的。他们不辞辛苦，4点多钟就去拖菜。
专门有专班志愿者，我们管委会还有人下来，24小时服务社区啊。每天有工作人员定点的询问、打电话，有时上门，每天是2次。
大家都积极报名，维护我们这个小家，每天巡逻在门口帮忙值班。小家好了，国家才能好，是不是？
The people-centric philosophy has been taken seriously in China. To put people first will be a test and reminder for the party and the government.
全党同志要把人民放在心中最高位置，坚持全心全意为人民服务的根本宗旨，实现好、维护好、发展好最广大人民根本利益。
中华文明绵延数千年，有其独特的价值体系，强调言必信，行必果，人而无信，不知其可也。像这样的思想和理念，不管过去还是现在，都有其鲜明的民族特色，都有其永不褪色的时代价值。
言必信，行必果 is a line Confucius said more than 2,000 years ago. It means one must be true to their word and determined in their work. For an individual, integrity is a moral imperative. For a country, it demands good governance. And for China, an apt example is the 5-year plan. Today, I'm going to talk with my friend Lawrence Brum on the relevance of this Chinese saying, 言必信，行必果.
Wow.
What is this place?
This is incredible. Look at this.
Yeah.
We have the ancient city. We've got the super new city over here.
This is a product of good planning. Lawrence, let's start with the quote, 言必信，行必果. It's actually Confucius said 2,000 years ago about commitment, about planning. Do other cultures have similar quotes and phrases?
Sure. I think the Irish have something like a promise made is a debt unpaid.
It is a foundation of the social contract.
Absolutely.
The party has been making plans for the country's growth, social and economic. Let's talk about the 5-year plan. Actually, it started when the republic was founded.
Planning matters. Planning is essential in business. If you don't have planning, how do you structure your companies? How do you organize your budgets? Likewise, it's essential in government.
Plans is good, but delivering on those plans is even better. You think that the Chinese has been consistent in there?
They're very good at delivering on the plans. One of the things about the structure of the Chinese government, which also goes back to really a continuum of ancient philosophy, is consistency and continuum. The fact is that China has a consensus-building process, and the transition of leadership from one generation to another is not abrupt.
but it's one of a transitional evolution.
Going on to the 14th five-year plan, China is going to have carbon neutrality, technological upgrading.
Exactly.
That is ambitious goal.
These are all in play, but they're being built on a very, very key pillar of the last 13th year plan. We've seen China basically eliminate domestic poverty, which I think no other country has been able to do. That kind of commitment. We've had presidents in America who are elected who have no experience at all in substantive government. All promises that are not based on what can be delivered.
The bigger picture is that making plans and delivering on those plans give the planners credibility, consistency. That will be an asset. So in general, if there is a universal message that China's practice of making commitment, enforcing it, delivering on the targets.
I think the message to the rest of the world is don't lock yourself into economic ideology. Planning and market are not in conflict. Actually, they're in synergy. And to use a Chinese concept, they're in harmony.
China's 14th five-year plan is closely watched by the world. The country is aiming high, from sustainable growth to climate change and technological progress. If history is any indicator, China always delivers on its plan.
谋划“十四五”时期发展要坚持发展为了人民，发展成果由人民共享，努力在推动高质量发展过程中办好各项民生事业，要更加聚焦人民群众普遍关心关注的民生问题，采取更有针对性的措施，一件一件抓落实，一年接着一年干，让人民群众获得感、幸福感、安全感更加充实、更有保障、更可持续。生态兴则文明兴，生态衰则文明衰。其民要术中有顺天时、量地利，则用力少而成功多的技术。这些观念都强调要把天地人统一起来，把自然生态同人类文明联系起来，按照大自然规律活动。始建于战国时期的都江堰，距今已有2000多年历史，就是根据岷江的洪涝规律和成都平原悬江的地势特点，因势利导建设的大型生态水利工程。
顺天时量地利，则用力少而成功多。This line represents the Chinese wisdom on where man stands in front of Mother Nature. From Dujiangyan to today's China, Singapore Tianjin Eco City, ecology is the key. Harmony between man and nature always challenge human intellect and conscience. Now let's meet Mr. Cohen to explore this idea. Hi, Jason.
Hi, George.
Nice to see you.
It's a pleasure.
Let's meet the museum. Jason, why don't we start with the quotation on how the Chinese view nature. Act according to the laws of the nature and the local geography. You can make more with less. Is there similar expressions in other cultures?
In my culture, that ancient quote is talking about doing more with less. How can a person or a company produce more output with less time or with fewer resources?
Do you think culturally those philosophies are dictating how we think, how we act, how we respond to the challenges?
Absolutely. I think that this is really inspiring people.
Have you seen examples of how the Chinese living the philosophy in their work and their life?
The North-South connection in the Tang Dynasty, it allowed people, without really changing the environment, allowed people to transport and move things more easily which then was able to encourage better development of the inner lands.
And the modern manifestation of this philosophy probably is how we make our climate policies right now. Is it a way to live in harmony with nature without putting too much footprints on it?
I definitely believe so. I think China, we've had a lot of experiences with this. Since I first started coming to China, I've seen major improvements in the environment, and you can see the aerosol optical depth, the particles in the air. The visibility is getting better. The aerosol optical depth is going down. It's improving. We can live with nature if we respect its boundaries.
In your opinion, what does an ideal, livable, ecologically friendly city look like?
For example, now we're in the Tianjin Eco-City. This place was built from the ground up. It was a polluted saltwater area in the past. People live surrounded by greenery, so they have more ability around them to absorb the emission. They're able to stay better protected from the waves, the heat extremes, the rain extremes. They live a happier, healthier life. Each of us has our own local knowledge, and that can help us to provide better solutions. I think and hope that we can find more and more ways to culturally and realistically and within harmony of nature try to better evaluate what the consequences.
Tell us your life here.
Yeah, I find my life a lot more peaceful. I have a lot more time to do some soul searching, but also, with a good environment comes a clear mind.
地面上都有这种雨水收集系统，它会把这水抽出来浇这个花花草草，就降低能源再利用嘛。
I enjoy working and living in Eco City. This also allows me to get to know the people in the city and feel more connected to my community.
Human society is trying to shift to an environment-friendly manner. That involves everything, from the methods we build our houses and roads to the way we work and live.
生态环境是人类生存和发展的根基，人类是命运共同体，保护生态环境是全球面临的共同挑战和共同责任。
中国将致力于构建横跨太平洋两岸、惠及各方的地区合作框架。太平洋之所以广大，是因为它没有任何自然阻隔，我们不应该为它设定人为的阻隔。浩渺行无极，扬帆但信风。
Boundless is the ocean where we sail with the wind, is a line taken from a Chinese poem 1,000 years ago. It means there is no geographical limits to where we travel to meet friends. The aspiration has gained new dimensions in modern China.
这40年我们都是见证着，发展这么快变成这个样子。虽然这是意料之中的事，但是看了以后啊，仍然感觉到很开心。
In the past 40 years, China has reformed its economy by joining the wider world with the conviction that openness is the way to growth and wealth. International cooperation has seen a new era. How should China adapt to a changed world? Let's meet Lee Barrett to talk about how China opened up.
Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good, good.
The quotation that I make in the beginning is actually a Tang poem. 浩渺行无极，扬帆但信风. The ocean is boundless if we can sail with the wind. It's a metaphor that we can make friends from afar. Is there any similar phrases that come from your culture?
I don't know any English ones, but I know one by a very famous American business person, Henry Ford.
Henry Ford.
And he said, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. And I think that's really interesting, you know, about working together. We all work together, everyone will benefit, everyone will be successful.
What about some Western companies' complaints about China's level playing field? Is it giving the same benefits, services to Western companies as the Chinese counterparts?
Actually, I think that China is still very open to foreign investment. There's a huge internal market. They can also get, you know, the manufacturers here are really adopting sort of modern manufacturing, automated manufacturing. So not only can they get better quality product manufactured here, they also have access to the internal market, and they can get their products manufactured cheaper here.
So opening up China is serving China well, but is it also serving the rest of the world as well?
Absolutely, and I think that's a good thing. Personally, I think that's the right thing to do. I think if countries cooperate, the general people will benefit from that. Whereas I think the way America wants to go now, by closing themselves off, I think that doesn't benefit the people at all. You know, it's like if you look at currently Huawei, it's stopping any American people using Huawei equipment. They can't get access to the best technology because their government is scared of competition.
Yes, probably in this divided world, keeping it together is still the message.
I think so.
When I compare what I see here on the ground in China, I see China as being the leader in so many of these areas. They use that leadership in a very humble way, offering their help, opening up the opportunities. It takes time to do that.
It's not a policy where you restrict anything. You have now more companies where we can freely do business and work with, like, you know, especially in the repair industries, supplies, services, agencies.
The policy of openness and mutuality has served the country well, and China intends to join hands with the rest of the world to build a community with a shared future. To reinvent the poet's words, we'd better sail together on the boundless ocean.
中国开放的大门不会关闭，只会越开越大。全面从严治党既要注重规范、惩戒、严明纪律底线，更要引导人向善向上，发挥理想信念和道德情操引领作用。深知主宰便是心，不能胜寸心，安能胜苍穹。
In 1827, Chinese thinker Gong Zizhen wrote, "If you do not conquer self, you will be conquered by self and achieve nothing." In 2016, Xi Jinping quoted Gong's poem, highlighting the necessity of strict governance of the party. To prevent corruption, one needs to fight a corrupt mind. And more importantly, one needs to have an action plan. Let's meet Alessandra Teixeira from Tsinghua University to talk about the quote. Our topic today is corruption, and it started from the quote, the poem from Gong Zizhen in Qing Dynasty. If you do not conquer self, you will be conquered by self and achieve nothing. So, in your opinion, what exactly is corruption?
I think the word corruption comes from the Latin, corruptus. It's someone that gets bribed, someone basically get kicks back, okay? So it's a timeless word, okay? So you have a lot of different nature of corruption, but basically the concept is related to use your power, in the case of the power of government, to exchange for personal benefits.
So is punishment and deterrence good enough to prevent officials or people from being corrupt?
I don't think it's good enough. I think you need to have an educational process in that. You need to educate society.
I think that's also what the Chinese have been trying to do, to have more education, not only on the party officials, but on all of the people. And how would you say the Chinese are addressing this issue systematically?
I think since 2012, especially with President Xi Jinping, but lately in 2015-16, a lot of measures have been taken. More than 100 measures have been taken. I see the way the Chinese government and the Chinese political system address it is a very important element. First, educating the society, not necessarily the government. Because again, if you educate society, the people that's going to be the future in the government, they came, let's say, with a DNA clear that's what they're doing. Second, the education of the political members of the party. Third, by education of the public servant. Fourth, by accountability, more measures in education, research, in terms of the nature of corruption, together with international cooperation that's making China, step by step, be one of the leading countries in terms of fighting corruption.
How would you address each and every culture meeting this challenge, and is there any chances of international cooperation?
I think international cooperation is very, very important. Every single government in the world, they understand the impact or the negative impact of corruption. So I think there is a great opportunity and is very important agenda, especially in developing economics, in South-South cooperation, to improve that agenda.
And how do you think the anti-corruption campaign has served China economically and socially?
First, in the social aspect, you see that if you have a government that is clean, okay, that you have clean institutions, you are tending to support this government. From the economic perspective, China is a leading economy. And if you have a clean government, that you have a perception that everything goes smooth and technical and meritocratic way, and more important, if you're credible, you can help other countries to improve, to have measures, to have transparency. Yeah. And that's how I believe China, doing the domestic work that it is doing, can help other countries around the globe. And I think China is on the way.
Winning the hearts and minds of the people is imperative. It has been and will always be the right thing to do. And by rooting out corruption, the government can earn trust and support from the people. A clean and honest government will make China a reliable partner on the world stage. China can and must do the right thing.
我觉得腐败就像是社会的一个毒瘤，是人类社会发展面临的共同敌人。对于我们社会大众来说，只有打击腐败，给予社会公平公正，才能给予每个人平等的发展机会。
国家打击腐败，给我们普通民众很大的信心，通过自己的努力奋斗，就能实现人生的目标。
China's fight against corruption goes beyond high-ranking officials and also includes overall improvements to the entire administrative system, improving the efficiency of administrative processes and supporting market reform. What's happened over the last decade has been quite phenomenal. We definitely look forward to see what future improvements lie in wait in China's fight against corruption.
人民最痛恨腐败现象，强化不敢腐的震慑，扎牢不能腐的笼子，增强不想腐的自觉，通过不懈努力，换来海晏河清，朗朗乾坤。创新是民族进步的灵魂，是一个国家兴旺发达的不竭源泉，也是中华民族最深沉的民族禀赋。正所谓苟日新，日日新，又日新。
If you can renew yourself in a day, do so day after day, then there will be daily renewal. For millennia, the Chinese people have used this motto to push themselves to be better every day. Hundreds of years ago, Chinese inventions like the printing, compass, and gunpowder were passed to Europe. Later, the Western calendar and astronomy were introduced to China. The history of science and technology is not just one of invention, but also one of communication. Today, I came to Tsinghua University to talk with Stephen White about the old Chinese saying, 苟日新,日日新,又日新. Stephen, very glad to have you here. Today, we like to talk about innovation. It started with an Asian quotation. If you renew yourself in a day and do it day after day, then you have daily renewal. So it says a lot about how to innovate, but is there any similar expression that you know of?
If we talk about innovation and coming from a business background and technology, innovation, research, obviously the god of this is Schumpeter, who talks about innovation being, he calls it the gales of creative destruction. So that for the economy to progress, for society to progress, that's a key part of it.
Can you give me an example of the Chinese creating something new that are driving the economy in another direction, to another level?
The whole digitalization of so many facets of daily life. Obviously the best example that is very common would be the whole WeChat or Alibaba platforms created this place where all a billion people on one side and millions of companies and service providers on the other side can meet. Distance becomes less important. So you can do things and access people, resources, markets at a broader scale. It definitely contributes to economic development and also a broader economic benefit, not just in the big cities where the centers of those technologies might be.
What do you think of the Chinese policies that are encouraging innovative growth in businesses?
I think in some aspects it's doing a good job of putting emphasis on deeper research, deeper technology-driven entrepreneurship. Several good things that are happening. One, there's a lot of incentives, rewards for basic research output. Usually in the form of papers or or patents perhaps. The other thing that's helping is making it easier for people to license the technologies from university. Research that's done in a university doesn't just stay in a paper and sit in a desk.
This knowledge is more valuable when it's spread around.
Right, so that was the idea, that to encourage and facilitate and enable that ease of licensing technology, even encouraging that. So that's been an important development recently in China.
Innovation is of course important, essential for a lot of people. Why innovation matters? What does it bring to the world and the people living in it?
In this very short phrase, I would just say it brings the potential for a better tomorrow. It's about the quality of life, whether it's individuals having better health care, better education, better living environment, better food, more opportunities at the society level, the health of the society, so to speak. That's the potential, and that's why innovation...
Yeah, and the realization of human potential and the promise of human functionality.
Most innovation is somehow working towards that idea.
I visited a lab at Tsinghua University that focused on cutting-edge research in computational imaging, brain science, and artificial intelligence to see how innovation works there.
实际上，所有有志于从事科研的人都一定会有好奇心，会有想象力，但是不意味着你有好奇心和想象力就会解决所有的问题。那么遇到困难的时候，仍然要保持一个乐观向上的态度，要坚持不懈地走下去。
苟日新，日日新，就是要激励我们能不断地去开拓创新，不能仅仅停留在自己原来科学研究的舒适圈。这样一些新的不断尝试的过程中，那才有可能去迸发出新的灵感、创新的火花。
未来能够继续去扎根于中国的一个科学研究，然后跟世界进行平等的一个科研交流，甚至去引领世界的一个科研的一个前沿。
Change breeds vitality. Innovative endeavors by individuals will lead to the transformation of the world. From independent innovation to cutting-edge technology, China is not only a testing ground for innovations, it also committed to making the results benefit more people.
我国广大科技工作者要以与时俱进的精神、革故鼎新的勇气，
坚韧不拔的定力，肩负起时代赋予的重任，努力实现高水平科技自立自强。 凿井者起于3寸之坎，就万人之身。社会主义建设者的接班人，既要有高尚品德，又要有真才实学。
To dig a well, you begin with a shallow pit, and eventually you get a deep one. That saying comes from Liu Zicongxue, a book written more than 1,500 years ago. And today, it is still used to encourage young people to achieve big goals through perseverance and hard work. That works for a person as well as a country. In 2015, the Chinese government made a promise that by 2020, China would eliminate absolute poverty. For starters, the poor need better education. Knowledge and skills would empower the poor families and enlighten the poor children. It is like digging a well. And today, I will go with my friend Kirk to visit a school in Yan'an in northwest China to see how education has made a difference here.
你猜他多大？54。They said you're 54。他很高兴，你们说他这么年轻，他60了。Very good。
Okay, let's meet in the library. Oh, Kirk, what a day. We're visiting the school for a whole day. What do you feel about the school?
There's so many children in school here in China compared to the schools that I'm used to in Canada. A lot of shining and happy faces, that's for sure.
But you know, this school has a very humble beginning. It started as a school in a little cave with just one teacher, and now it's this. Because this is located in the west of China, not so developed area, it got a lot of help from elsewhere. For example, the internet classroom we just visited, they got teachers helping from the East Coast. That seems to be the way that China has been adopting to help the schools in the remote areas.
You know, and I didn't expect to see that here, internet teaching. It's, you know, having highly trained teachers teach kids in schools that may not have access to those highly professional teachers. And I think that the teachers can learn from what they're being taught online here.
And about this saying, when you want to have a well, you have to make a dent first, and then eventually you have a deep well. You have similar expressions in other cultures?
Well, you know, every long journey starts with a single step, and I think that's true with anything that you do in life. Well, and I think that's where this saying comes in. You know, you've got to start somewhere. Take that first step.
And first step is important because China has a huge campaign to alleviate poverty. And the first step they think it is appropriate is education. And here is a good example. Have you heard of education so that we can have poverty relief?
Well, you see, education is the backbone of poverty alleviation. With good education, these children have the opportunity to go from good education to good employment. They're making more money, their lives are better, and when they have children, you know that they're going to be spending some of that hard-earned money that they've made on their children's education. It's a cycle. If that cycle is poverty, well, then they're never going to have a chance to better their communities, their families. If that cycle turns into prosperity through education and better employment, then the prosperity cycle will start.
Yeah, and obviously poverty is a global problem, if people living elsewhere in the world should take away anything from the Chinese practice by lifting people out of poverty through education, what would that be?
Invest in your children. And China is actually a good example. If you invest in your children like China has done, you've got better education, you've got better healthcare, and the infrastructure is getting better. You've got all of these things are growing. And the rest of the world is watching and saying, well, how's China doing that? And sooner or later, they're going to figure out it's because of their education. In 1993, they put just under 90 billion yen into education, so between 2.5% and 3% of their GDP. In 2020, they put over 5 trillion yen into education. So you can see the difference with that investment in their children, in education of the people of their country. They've made their country a better, more prosperous place to thrive.
Thank you very much, Kirk. 周老师，您看到这个学校的变化是什么样的呀？
日新月异的这个变化，从2层现在变成4层，然后后边又修建了这个综合楼，整个的这个设施设备都是焕然一新。咱们这个区上市上都特别重视这个小学这个教育。
那杨老师，当年他这个小学是什么样的状况？
当年只有8孔窑洞7间平房，然后到了1995年，时任福州市委书记的习近平倡导县家企业借迁校，然后迁址修建了我们现在的这所学校。我就是杨江那小学毕业的，看到这个母校有这么大翻天覆地的变化，我心里由衷的感谢。相信孩子们能在这样的环境中，他们会更加的努力学习。
扶贫必扶志，让贫困地区的孩子接受良好教育，是扶贫开发的重要任务，也是阻断贫困代际传递的重要途径。王阳明说：“志不立，天下无可成之事。”可见立志对一个人的一生具有多么重要的意义。广大青年要培养奋斗精神，做到理想坚定、信念执着，不怕困难，勇于开拓，顽强拼搏，永不气馁。
No ambition, no achievement. For 500 years, generations of young Chinese have been inspired by Wang Yangming and his words on setting goals and realizing dreams to make a difference by serving the people. Today, I joined Anar Tongan to talk about the quotation, "No ambition, no achievement." Anar, let's talk about the quotation, "No ambition, no achievement." What does ambition play in a young people's growth?
Ambition for myself is an ambition to fulfill my family's dreams, society's dreams. Ambition is just the drive that pushes you towards your goal.
When you compare different aspirations in different cultural contexts, for example, here in China, the cultural background is Confucianism, which encourages people to do public service for the nation. Do other countries and cultures share similar expressions and thoughts?
Yes. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. This spirit of sacrifice, not to just throw yourself in harm's way, but to build a better society.
What do you think that the essential qualities young people who want to join the public service must have?
Dedication, honesty. I mean, there has to be this sense that you are willing to put society's interests a little bit ahead of your own.
And do you think the young people now in China have that kind of devotion to public service?
I think a lot of young people have woken up and said, listen, If China is going to go forward, it's going to need the best from our generation, and I want to be part of it.
Many people say China is now at a watershed moment because there's national rejuvenation. That makes a lot of young people feel that they are part of this great undertaking.
And remember, a lot of the economic success has come over the last 40 years. They're proud of how far China has come.
This is systematic efforts, but also many young people feel inspired and encouraged in the process.
Yes, the irony there is that the US and other countries are trying to contain or change China's system, but it's having the exact opposite effect. If you start looking at the statistics in terms of China and the faith of the people in their government, especially after COVID-19, and not only the health aspects and handling of it, but also the economic, you've seen a tremendous surge in people's belief that the government is a good institution. The Chinese government, as the motto is, serve the people. So from that perspective, young people see that and they want to be part of it.
What can the Confucianism-inspired meritocracy here in China tell other systems in the world?
It is a situation where actions are everything, not only in China, but around the world. They define you, they define your country.
Through 5,000 years of its history, the Chinese have been through ups and downs. Some common aspirations have sustained the nation and kept alive its spirit. Facing a new era in the world, those aspirations could help the people meet the challenges and embrace the future.
志不立，天下无可成之事。对于我们这一代人而言呢，我们比以往任何时候都面临更多的挑战。
我们青年一代，他是有着一定的时代责任，需要去担当，有所作为。
我也读过习总书记在梁家河的一些经历，真正的把自己融入到了国家中，融入到了人民当中。
青年这一代就是要立鸿鹄志，做奋斗者，为社会的发展做出自己应有的贡献，我就实现了我的人生目标和理想。
青年是国家的未来，也是世界的未来。中国梦与世界梦息息相通。中华民族应该对人类社会做出更大的贡献。新时代中国青年要有家国情怀，也要有人类关怀，发扬中华文化崇尚的四海一家、天下为公精神。